this being the 22nd of July, 2025. Section 12 in Liber Primus, the first volume of the Red Book, entitled Instruction, following from Mysterium Encounter, proceeding with resolution. On the following night, December 22, 1913, I was led to a second image. I'm standing in the rocky depth that seems to me like a crater. Before me, I see the house with columns. I see Salome walking along the length of the wall toward the left, touching the wall like a blind person. The serpent follows her. The old man stands at the door and waves to me. Hesitantly, I draw closer. He calls Salome back. She is like someone suffering. I cannot detect any sacrilege in her nature. Her hands are white and her face has a gentle expression. The serpent lies before them. I stand before them clumsily, like a stupid boy, overwhelmed by uncertainty and ambiguity. The old man eyes me searchingly and says, "What do you want here?" I, "Forgive me, it is not obtrusiveness or arrogance that brings me here. I am here perchance, not knowing what I want. A longing that stayed behind in your house yesterday has brought me here. You see, prophet, I am tired. My head is as heavy as lead. I'm lost in my ignorance. I've toyed with myself enough. I played hypocritical games with myself, and they all would have disgusted me, were it not clever to perform what others expect from us in the world of men. It seems to me as if I were more real here, and yet I do not like being here. Wordlessly, Elijah and Salome step inside the house. I follow them reluctantly. A feeling of guilt torments me. Is it bad conscience? I would like to turn back, but I cannot. I stand before the play of fire in the shining crystal. I see in splendor the Mother of God with the child. Peter stands in front of her in admiration. Then Peter alone with the key, the Pope with a triple crown, a Buddha sitting rigidly in a circle of fire, a many-armed bloody goddess, Kali. It is Salome desperately wringing her hands. Now that white shape of a girl with black hair, my own soul, and now that white shape of a man, which also appeared to me at the time. It resembles Michelangelo's sitting Moses. It is Elijah. It takes hold of me. She is my own soul. And now I see Elijah in the image of the stone. Hmm. The many-armed bloody goddess. It is Salome desperately wringing her hands. It takes hold of me. She is my own soul. And now I see Elijah in the image of the stone. Elijah and Salome stand smiling before me. Aye, these visions are full of torment, and the meaning of these images is dark to me. Elijah, please shed some light. Elijah turns away silently and leads the way toward the left. Salome enters a colonnade to the right. Elijah leads me into an even darker room. A burning red lamp hangs from the ceiling. I sit down exhausted. Elijah stands before me, leaning on a marble lion in the middle of the room. Elijah, are you anxious? Your knowledge is to blame for your bad conscience. Not knowing is guilt, but you believe that it is the urge toward forbidden knowledge that causes your feeling of guilt. Why do you think you are here? I, I don't know. I sank into this place when unknowingly I tried resisting the not known. So here I am, astonished and confused, an ignorant fool. I experience strange things in your house, things that frighten me, and whose meaning is dark to me. Elijah, if it were not your law to be here, how would you be here? I, I'm afflicted by a fatal weakness, my father. Elijah, you are evasive. You cannot extricate yourself from your law. I, how can I extricate myself from what is unknown to me, which I cannot reach with either feeling or presentiment? Elijah, you are lying. Do you not know that you yourself recognized what it means if Salome loves you? I, you are right. A doubtful and uncertain thought arose in me, but I have forgotten it again. Elijah, you have not forgotten it. It burned deep inside you. Are you cowardly? Or can you not differentiate this thought from your own self, enough that you wished to claim it for yourself? Enough so that you wished to claim it for yourself. You have not forgotten it. It burned deep inside you. Are you cowardly? Or can you not differentiate this thought from your own self, enough so that you wish to claim it for yourself? I, the thought went too far for me, and I shun far-fetched ideas. They are dangerous. Since I am a man, and you know how much men are accustomed to seeing thoughts as their very own, so that they eventually confuse them with themselves. The thought went too far for me, and I shun far-fetched ideas. They are dangerous, since I am a man, and you know how much men are accustomed to seeing thoughts as their very own, so that they will eventually confuse them with themselves. Elijah, will you therefore confuse yourself with a tree or animal, because you look at them, and because you exist with them in one and the same world? Must you be your thoughts, because you are in the world of your thoughts? But your thoughts are just as much outside yourself as trees and animals are outside your body. I, I understand. My thought world was for me more world. My thought world was for me more word than thought. I understand. My thought world was for me more word than world. I thought of my thought world. It is I, Elijah. Do you say to your human world and every being outside of you, you are I? I. I stepped into your house, my father, with the fear of a schoolboy, but you taught me salutary wisdom, truth. I can also consider my thoughts as being outside myself. That helps me to return to that terrible conclusion that my tongue is reluctant to express. I thought that Salome loves me because I resemble John or you. This thought seemed unbelievable to me. That's why I rejected it and thought that she loves me because I am really quite opposite to you, that she loves her badness in my badness. This thought was devastating. Elijah is silent. Heaviness lies on me. Then Salome steps in, comes over to me, and lays her arm around my shoulder. She takes me for her father, in whose chair I sat. I dare neither move nor speak. Salome, I know that you are not my father. You are his son, and I am your sister. I, you, Salome, my sister? Was this the terrible attraction that emanated from you, that unnameable horror of you, of your touch? Who was our mother? Salome, Mary. I. Is it a hellish dream? Mary, our mother? What madness lurks in your words? The mother of our Saviour, our mother? When I crossed your threshold today, I foresaw calamity. Alas, it has come. Are you out of your senses, Salome? Elijah, protector of the divine law, speak. Is this a devilish spell cast by the rejected? How can she say such a thing? Or are both of you out of your senses? You are symbols, and Mary is a symbol. I am simply too confused to see through you now. Elijah, you may call us symbols for the same reason that you can also call your fellow men symbols, if you wish to. But we are just as real as your fellow men. You invalidate nothing and solve nothing by calling us symbols. I, you plunge me into a terrible confusion. Do you wish to be real? Elijah, we are certainly what you call real. Here we are, and you have to accept us. The choice is yours. I am silent. Salome has removed herself. Uncertainly, I look around. Behind me, a high golden red flame burns on a round altar. The serpent has encircled the flame. Its eyes glitter with golden reflections. Swaying, I turn to the exit. As I step out into the hall, I see a powerful lion going before me. Outside, it is a wide, cold, starry night. What follows is a reflection from the corrected draft, and it's entitled in that corrected draft, Guiding Reflection, which begins with this paraphrase. I wonder whether this is real, an underworld, or the other reality, and whether it was the other reality that had forced me here. I see here that Salome, my pleasure, moves to the left, the side of the impure and bad. This movement follows the serpent, which represents the resistance and the enmity against this movement. Pleasure goes away from the door. Forethinking, the idea, stands at the door, knowing the entrance to the mysteries. Therefore, desire melts into the many if forethinking does not direct it and force it toward its goal. If one meets a man who only desires, then one will find resistance against his desire behind it. Desire without forethinking gains much but keeps nothing. Therefore, his desire is the source of constant disappointment. Thus, Elijah calls Salome back. If pleasure is united with forethinking, the serpent lies before them. To succeed in something, you first need to deal with the resistance and difficulty, otherwise, joy leaves behind pain and disappointment. Otherwise, joy leaves behind pain and disappointment. Therefore, I drew nearer. I first had to overcome the difficulty and the resistance to gain what I desired. When desire overcomes the difficulty, it becomes seeing and follows forethinking. Therefore, I see that Salome's hands are pure, with no trace of crime. My desire is pure if I first overcome the difficulty and resistance. If I weigh up pleasure and forethinking, I am like a fool, blindly following his longing. If I follow my thinking, I forsake my pleasure. The ancients said in images that the fool finds the right way. Forethinking has the first word. Therefore, Elijah asked me what I wanted. You should always ask yourself what you desire, since all too many do not know what they want. I did not know what I wanted. You should confess your longing and what you long for to yourself. Thus you satisfy your pleasure and nourish your forethinking at the same time. It is no small matter to acknowledge one's yearning. For this, many need to make a particular effort at honesty. All too many do not want to know where their yearning is. because it would seem to them impossible or too distressing. And yet, yearning is the way of life. If you do not acknowledge your yearning, then you do not follow yourself, but go on foreign ways that others have indicated to you. So you do not live your life, but an alien one. But who should live your life if you do not live it? It is not only stupid to exchange your own life for an alien one, but also a hypocritical game, because you can never really live the life of others. You can only pretend to do it, deceiving the other and yourself, since you can only live your own life. If you give up your life, you live it in others. Thereby you become selfish to others, and thus you deceive others. Everyone thus believes that such a life is possible. It is, however, only apish imitation. Through giving in to your apish appetite, you infect others, because the ape stimulates the apish. So you turn yourself and others into apes. Through reciprocal imitation, you live according to the average expectation. The image of the hero was set up for all in every age through the appetite for imitation. Therefore, the hero was murdered, since we have all been aping him. Do you know why you cannot abandon apishness? For fear of loneliness and defeat. To live oneself means to be one's own task. Never say that it is pleasure to live oneself. Never say that it is pleasure. Never say that it is a pleasure to live oneself. It will be no joy but a long suffering, since you must become your own creator. If you want to create yourself, then you do not begin with the best and the highest, but with the worst and the deepest. Therefore say that you are reluctant to live yourself. The flowing together of the stream of life is not joy but pain, since it is power against power, guilt, and shatters the sanctified. The image of the Mother of God with the child that I foresee indicates to me the mystery of the transformation in his outer appearance, in the misery of earthly reality. If forethinking and pleasure unite in me, a third arises from them, the divine Son, who is the supreme meaning, the symbol, the passing over into a new creation. I do not myself become the supreme meaning, the Son of God, or the symbol, but the symbol becomes in me, such that it has its substance, and I am mine. Thus I stand like Peter in worship before the miracle of the transformation and the becoming real of the God in me. Although I am not the son of the God myself, I represent him, nevertheless, as one who was a mother to the God, and one, therefore, to whom in the name of the God, the freedom of the binding and loosing has been given. The binding and loosing take place in me. Also see Matthew 18:18, Christ. Whatsoever ye shall bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever ye shall loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. The binding and loosing take place in me. But insofar as it takes place in me, and I am a part of the world, it also takes place through me in the world, and no one can hinder it. It doesn't take place according to the way of my will, but in the way of unavoidable effect. I am not master over you, but the being of the God in me. I am not master over you, but the being of the God in me. I lock the past with one key, with the other I open the future. This takes place through my transformation. The miracle of transformation commands. I am its servant, just as the Pope is. You see how incredible it was to believe such of oneself. The draft and corrected draft continue. The Pope in Rome has become an image and symbol for us of how God becomes human and how he, God, becomes the visible Lord of men. Thus the coming God will become the Lord of the world. This happens first here in me. The supreme meaning becomes my Lord and infallible commander, though not only in me, and perhaps in many others whom I don't know. You see how incredible it was to believe such of oneself. It applies not to me, but to the symbol. The symbol becomes my Lord and unfailing commander. It will fortify its reign and change itself into a starry and riddling image, whose meaning turns completely inward, and whose pleasure radiates outward like blazing fire. Thus I become like the Buddha sitting in the flames, the Buddha in the flames. Where the idea is, pleasure always is too. If the idea is inside, pleasure is outside. Therefore, an air of evil pleasure envelops me. A lecherous and bloodthirsty God gives me this false air. This happens because I must altogether suffer the becoming of the God, and can therefore not separate it from myself at first. But as long as it is not separated from me, I am so seized by the idea that I am it, and therefore I am also the woman associated with the idea from the beginning. In that I receive the idea and represent it in the manner of Buddha. My pleasure is like the Indian Kali, since she is Buddha's other side. In that I receive the idea and represent it in the manner of Buddha, my pleasure is like the Indian Kali, since she is Buddha's other side. Kali, however, is Salome, and Salome is my soul. Because I sink into my symbol to such an extent, the symbol changes me from my one into my other. And that cruel goddess of my interior, my womanly pleasure, my own other, the tormented tormentor, that which is to be tormented. Because I sink into my own symbol to such an extent, the symbol changes me from my one into my other, and that cruel goddess of my interior, my womanly pleasure, my own other, the tormented tormentor, that which is to be tormented. I have interpreted these images as best I can with poor words. In the draft, a lengthy passage occurs here, a paraphrase of which follows. The numbness is like a death. I needed total transformation. Through this, my meaning, like that of the Buddha, went completely inside. Then the transformation happened. I then went over to pleasure, as I was a thinker. As a thinker, I rejected my feeling, but I had rejected part of life. Then my feeling became a poisonous plant, and when it awakened, it was sensuality instead of pleasure, the lowest and commonest form of pleasure. This is represented by Kali. Salome is the image of his pleasure that suffers pain, since it was shut out for too long. It then became apparent that Salome, i.e., my pleasure, was my soul. When I recognized this, my thinking changed and ascended to the idea, and then the image of Elijah appeared. This prepared me for the mystery play, and showed me in advance the way of transformation that I had to undergo in the mysterium. The flowing together of the forethinking with pleasure produces the God. I recognized that the God in me wanted to become a man, and I considered this and honored this, and I became the servant of the God, but for no one other than myself. Corrected draft. It would be madness and presumption to assume that I did this for others, that I also did this for others. I sank into the contemplation of the wonder of transformation, and first turned into the lower level of my pleasure, and then through this I recognized my soul. The smiles of Elijah and Salome indicate that they were happy at my appearance, but I was in deep darkness. When the way is dark, so is the idea that gives light. When the way is dark, so is the idea that gives light. When the idea, in the moment of confusion, allows the words and not the blind longing, then the words lead you to difficulty, whereas it leads you to the right. That is why Elijah turns left, to the side of the unholy and evil, and Salome turns right, to the side of the correct and good. She doesn't go to the garden, the place of pleasure, but remains in the house of the Father. In the moment of your bewilderment, follow your forethinking and not your blind desire, since forethinking leads you to the difficulties that should always come first. That should always come first. They come nevertheless. If you look for a light, you first fall into an even deeper darkness. In this darkness, you find a light with a weak reddish flame that gives only a lower brightness, but it is enough for you to see your neighbor. It is exhausting to reach this goal that seems to be no goal, and so it is good. I am paralyzed and therefore ready to accept. My forethinking rests on the lion, my power. In the draft, this passage follows. If I am strong, so also are my intentions and presuppositions. My own thought weakens and goes over into the idea. The idea becomes strong. It is supported by its own strength. I recognize this in the fact that Elijah is supported by the lions. The lion is of stone. My pleasure is dead and turned to stone because I did not love Salome. This gave my thought the coldness of stone, and from this the idea took its solidity, which it needed to subjugate my thought. It needed to be subjugated as it strove against Salome, since she appeared bad to it. I held to the sanctified form and didn't want to allow the chaos to break through its dams. I believed in the order of the world and hated everything disorganized and unformed. Therefore, above all, I had to realize that my own law had brought me to this place. As the God developed in me, I thought he was a part of myself. I thought that my I included him, and therefore I took him for my thought. But I also considered that my thoughts were parts of my I. Thus I entered into my thoughts and into the thinking about the God, in that I took him for a part of myself. On account of my thoughts, I had left myself. Therefore myself became hungry and made God into a selfish thought. If I leave myself, my hunger will drive me to find myself in my object, that is, in my thought. Therefore you love reasonable, and orderly thoughts, since you could not endure it if yourself was in disordered, that is, unsuitable thoughts. Through your selfish wish, you pushed out of your thoughts everything that you do not consider ordered, that is, unfitting. You create order according to what you know. You do not know the thoughts of chaos, and yet they exist. My thoughts are not myself, and my I does not embrace the thought. Your thought has this meaning and that, not just one, but many meanings. No one knows how many. My thoughts are not myself, but exactly like the things of the world, alive and dead. Just as I am not damaged through living in a partly chaotic world, so too I am not damaged if I live in my partly chaotic thought world. Thoughts are natural events that you do not possess, and whose meaning you only imperfectly recognize. Corrected draft. It would have been more than inconsistent if I thought that I had produced the thoughts of the mysterium. Thoughts are natural events that you do not possess and whose meaning you only imperfectly recognize. Thoughts grow in me like a forest, populated by many different animals. But man is domineering in his thinking, and therefore he kills the pleasure of the forest and that of the wild animals. Man is violent in his desire, and he himself becomes a forest and a forest animal. Just as I have freedom in the world, I also have freedom in my thoughts. Freedom is conditional. To certain things of the world, I must say, you should not be thus, but you should be different. Yet first I look carefully at their nature, otherwise I cannot change it. I proceed in the same way with certain thoughts. You change those things of the world that, not being useful in themselves, endanger your welfare. Proceed likewise with your thoughts. Nothing is complete, and much is in dispute. The way of life is transformation, not exclusion. Well-being is a better judge than the law. But as I became aware of the freedom in my thought world, Salome embraced me, and I thus became a prophet, since I'd found pleasure in the primordial beginning, in the forest, and in the wild animals. It stands too close to reason for me to set myself on a par with my visions, and for me to take pleasure in seeing. I am in danger of believing that I myself am significant, since I see the significant. This will always drive us crazy, and we transform the vision into foolishness and monkey business, since we cannot desist from imitation. The draft continues. I recognized the father because I was a thinker, and thus I did not know the mother, but saw love in the guise of pleasure and called it pleasure, and therefore this was Salome to me. Now I learn that Mary is the mother, the innocent and love-receiving, and not pleasure, who bears the seed of evil in her heated and seductive nature. If Salome, if Salome, evil pleasure, is my sister, then I must be a thinking saint, and my intellect has met with a sad fate. I must sacrifice my intellect and confess to you that what I told you about pleasure, namely that it is the principle opposed to forethought, is incomplete and prejudiced. I observed as a thinker from the vantage point of my thinking. Otherwise, I could have recognized that Salome, as Elijah's daughter, is an offspring of thought, and not the principle itself, which Mary, the innocent Virgin Mother, now appears as. Just as my thinking is the sum of forethinking, so is my pleasure the daughter of love. Just as my thinking is the son of forethinking, so is my pleasure the daughter of love. Of the innocent and conceiving Mother of God. Aside from Christ, Mary gave birth to Salome. Therefore, Christ in the Gospel of the Egyptians says to Salome, eat every herb, but do not eat the bitter. And when Salome wanted to know, Christ spoke to her, if you crush the covering of shame, and when the two become one, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. Just as my thinking is the son of forethinking, so is my pleasure the daughter of love, of the innocent and conceiving Mother of God. Aside from Christ, Mary gave birth to Salome. Therefore, Christ in the Gospel of the Egyptians says to Salome, eat every herb, but do not eat the bitter. And when Salome wanted to know, Christ spoke to her, if you crush the covering of shame, and when the two become one, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. Footnote goes, the Gospel of the Egyptians is one of the apocryphal Gospels that features a dialogue between Christ and Salome. Christ states that he has come to undo the work of the female, namely lust, birth, and decay. To Salome's question of how long shall death prevail, Christ answered, as long as women bear children. Here, Jung is referring to the following passage. Quote, she said, then I have done well in not giving birth, imagining that it is not permitted to bear children. The Lord answered, quote, eat of every herb, but the bitter one eat not. The dialogue continues, quote, When Salome asked whether it shall be made known, the Lord said, quote, when you tread underfoot the covering of shame, when you tread underfoot the covering of shame, and when out of two is made one, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. Jung cites this logion available to him from Clement in the Stromates, as an example of the union of opposites in Visions, 1932, and as an example of the conjunction of male and female in On the Psychology of the Child Archetype, and in Mysterium Conjunctionis. When you tread underfoot the covering of shame, and when out of two is made one, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. Forethinking is the procreative, love is the receptive. Forethinking is the procreative, love is the receptive. But when the mystery play showed me this, I didn't understand, but I thought I had produced an incredible thought. Therefore, I was seized by fear, and I wanted to explain my arbitrary thoughts to Elijah and Salome, and thus invalidate them. Forethinking is the procreative, love is the receptive. Both are beyond this world. Here are understanding and pleasure. We only suspect the other. It would be madness to claim that they are in this world. So much that is riddling and cunning coils around this light. I won the power back again from the depths, and it went before me like a lion. The draft continues. The image of the cool starry night and of the vast sky opens up my eye to the infinity of the inner world, which I, as a desirous man, feel is still too cold. I cannot pull the stars down to myself, but only watch them. Therefore, my impetuous desire feels that world is nightly and cold. Clarity without footnotes. To certain things of the world, I must say, you should not be thus, but you should be different. Yet first I look carefully at their nature, otherwise I cannot change it. I proceed in the same way with certain thoughts. You change those things of the world that, not being useful in themselves, endanger your welfare. Proceed likewise with your thoughts. Nothing is complete, and much is in dispute. The way of life is transformation, not exclusion. Well-being is a better judge than the law. But as I became aware of the freedom in my thought world, Salome embraced me, and I thus became a prophet, since I had found pleasure in the primordial beginning, in the forest, and in the wild animals. It stands too close to reason for me to set myself on a par with my visions, and for me to take pleasure in seeing. I am in danger of believing that I myself am significant, since I see the significant. This will always drive us crazy, and we transform the vision into foolishness and monkey business, since we cannot desist from imitation. Just as my thinking is the son of forethinking, so is my pleasure the daughter of love, of the innocent and conceiving mother of God. Aside from Christ, Mary gave birth to Salome. Therefore, Christ in the Gospel of the Egyptians says to Salome, eat every herb, but do not eat the bitter. And when Salome wanted to know, Christ spoke to her, if you crush the covering of shame, and when the two become one, and the male with the female, neither male nor female. Forethinking is the procreative, love is the receptive. Both are beyond this world. Here are understanding and pleasure. We only suspect the other. It would be madness to claim that they are in this world. Forethinking is the procreative, love is the receptive. Both are beyond this world. Here are understanding and pleasure. We only suspect the other. It would be madness to claim that they are in this world. So much that is riddling and cunning coils around this light. I won the power back again from the depths, and it went before me like a lion. That being the rather inscrutable 12th section of Liber Primus, the first volume of the Red Book, entitled Instruction.